Hello, class. How's everyone doing today? All right, let me just kind of get things ready. So today we are going to, first we're going to go through your guys' participation questions, which is the last one of the semester. Woohoo! Congrats to all you guys who got a lot of those in, you know. Once a week having to ask the questions. I mean, sometimes it can be difficult, but you guys usually find something to ask. So good job on that. So we're going to go over those. And then I'm going to spend some time going through some techniques that we kind of touched on through going through your guys' design briefs. Now, I didn't have any other design briefs turned in. So I'm, at this point, if you guys haven't turned a design brief in and gotten a grade for it, you're possibly not going to get this project done. So, if you get those, send them to me. I don't know how busy I'll be over the weekend, but I will, try and get those graded as quickly as possible. And, we'll just spend the rest of the time kind of going through things. And then Tuesday's class, we are going to, I'm not quite sure what we're going to do for Tuesday's class quite yet. We're going to go over your the first versions of your Colorscope projects, and I'll give you guys feedback to get done for Thursday's class, which, I think I have it Wednesday is the due date. Let me see. So the final, let me bring this over here too so we can see what you guys have left in the class. And then I'm going to change this to the student view. All right, so this is what you guys see. Here is editing together all of the mini projects. That was our last one. We're working on the Colorscope one down here. This is going to be your project that's due before next Tuesday. That's a Colorscope project. And so I want you guys to turn this in. That way we can go over them. And then the second draft of it will be turned in as kind of like your final, which will be added with your portfolio links. Now, see, this is due Wednesday by midnight. You do not have time, and this is a hard deadline. If you don't have that in by Wednesday midnight, both your updated reel, right? Because I gave you guys feedback on those reels this past week. So all of that updated and turned in, as well as your full Colorscope project. Now, 1920 by 1080, you can send me a YouTube link or a Vimeo link. But be sure to provide like a written description that discusses how you made the work, what kind of tools you use, and that is within both YouTube and video description, right? You don't have to write that stuff to me in the assignment. It has to be in the description of your link. And then you're going to turn in also an MP4 of that. So not only are you going to upload it and give me the link, but you're also going to turn in the MP4. And then the final draft of your motion graphics reel, again, an updated link where your updated work is, most recent work, with the descriptions, any kind of music track attributions you guys have to give. And it should reflect all of the suggested changes for all of the projects that we have worked on over the semester. I've like super highlighted that so you guys read it, right? And this has been up for you guys to look at and posted for a while now, for like at least a week. So while you're working over this weekend, I suggest kind of looking at this and getting all your ducks in a row and preparing. It should be your polished work, not the work you just completed before the deadline, right? 1920 by 1080, 24 frames a second, MP4. So both the link and the video as well. And then this is how I will be grading the projects, right? You'll receive 50 points for the Colorscope section and 100 points for the reel. They'll total 150 points. And I'll be deducting 5 to 10 points for every video or section in the reel that does not include the suggested changes and or is like completely missing, right? It doesn't have to be every single scene. I just want to see like the specific, like the robot arm, each project. I want to see each project. Like you don't have to have every bound, like for instance, the motion graphics project that we did in Cinema 4D, where you have the weight scene and the impact scene and those. If you can fit them all in, they look good, great. Keep them in there. But if you have only 2 of them or 1 out of the 3, I'm not going to, you've at least included that project in there. So then finally, I should almost make this bigger here. This is a hard deadline, okay? Not accepting after this due date. And it's Wednesday. It's not Thursday. It is Wednesday. No exceptions made. I might I will be lenient with you guys as far as the Colorscope project grading because we are kind of cramming this one in. That doesn't mean I want you guys to slack on your work. I want you guys to get it done. But if it's like not perfect work, I'm not going to be super upset about that, right? Because you guys are doing a lot in a short amount of time. And I appreciate all of you who are doing that hard work. And so I don't want to be like super hard on that one. But for the actual, the reel, I mean, that's been something, all of your projects and the reel have been things that have already happened in the past. You've had plenty of time to work on that kind of stuff. So that one will be graded accordingly. Angelina's in the chat. What's up? How you doing today? All right. And so I can just honestly close out of that. Let us go through the participation questions. Yay. Put them in here today. All right, we have Eric. I'm going to mute my mic when I do this, you guys.
Hey everybody, my question this week has to do with the rigid body physics in Cinema 4D. So the problem I'm having, and I will just do this real quick so you can see it, is this. And while that is extremely entertaining, it's not what it's weird. I don't know if there's like any troubleshooting I can make to fix that or not. The other question that I really wanted to ask before I ran into problems was how to morph one object into another in Cinema 4D. So those are my questions. Bye.
All right, Eric. So the last question about morphing one object into another in Cinema 4D we spoke about in class. I think it was not last class, but the class prior. So last Thursday's class a week ago. And let me try and find that link. We specifically talked on how to morph using the volume. What is it called? The volume builder and the volume mesher. I was like, what? Which one is it? Okay. So let me link that one into, let me go to the channel real quick. It was this one. And morph together. Okay. Sorry, I am going to put this into Slack for you, Eric. Into the general Slack channel, or the 84, but the morphing technique. As far as the sorry, sometimes I can't think while I type. I'm one of those people. I'm like, I have to fully focus. It's part of my ADHD. I'm like, oh, I have to super focus. First of all, yeah, taking each day at a time too. Same. I think you guys would realize that students and instructors and professors are like, we all take it one day at a time. So, anyways, that's linked in there for you, Eric. I tagged you as well. And then as for the car, the problem is I think that you used some kind of model that isn't in the studio. Let me know about that. It might be because the wheels are a separate separated out from the body of the car, because you can animate them, and so I would either group them in with the car or add the same rigid body tag to it, because like the rigid body tag might be being added to each individual wheel separately, and because they would be like, it would count them as like separate objects. So what you could do as well is you could make the car like a full, it looks, I can't really see, it's a little blurry. Let me see if there's something going on with my video settings. Oh, the resolution's just really low. I'd have to know how the model is built. I think you made the object like a one editable object. Let me know if you did do that, because if that's what that might be another option for you to do, is like put it into one null and then make that car an actual editable single object. And if not, it might be worth just putting something into Illustrator, bringing it into Cinema 4D, extruding it, and just kind of giving it the, I know it wouldn't be like a car model, but maybe that would work, or possibly trying to use a different model that's inside of the studio, or I'm sorry, inside of the asset browser. That's kind of what I have for you right now. Let me know if those work, or if you find a workaround that might help you out a little bit more. Let me close this. And our next question. Asia.
Hello. So my question is for the Colorscope project. I was wondering if there is a preference whether we use maybe like a mix of both 2D and 3D for this project, or if it's completely up to us in the sense of if we want to do completely 3D, we could have a preference to do a mix or one of the.
So if you guys look at the module requirements, it says that it has to be at least one scene in 3D. If you guys wanted to do more in 3D and you have the time over the weekend, you can try that. But I think with the time crunch that we have here, doing it in 3D would be harder. So I would just use your time wisely, but there has to be a mix. It has to be, because I have to see that it's like your last project. So you're combining both 3D and 2D, and yeah. All right, we have Brandon.
Hi, I was going through the Colorscope videos and I really like this effect at the end of the orange video. It kind of reminds me of like when you're walking by like a TV or something, or it like starts glitching
Yeah,
out, and I was curious like
cool.
how that's achieved.
So they use some kind of like animated pattern here, and then they mask it within a circle. So let me put that down. I have some things I'm going to show you guys how to do today. Maybe that will be on one of them. Let me see. Creating an animated pattern masked into a shape. Okay. Yeah, we can try something similar to that. As far as Like, here's, they could have used like a Venetian splines. We can try some different things with that one. Yeah, cool. Other than that, I might show you like a different pattern and then find how to do the TV thing later, because it's kind of also like this wrinkled type effect happening on it. So we'll see how far we can get with that one. But yeah, I will show you guys how to do that. We have Brian.
Hey, question for this week. You said add like an animation of some kind to the green text. Here I'm modeling it in C4D. I was wondering like what effect you would recommend using.
So
The deformers over here, or if there's like a technique, or if I could just like rotate the text, if that would work, or a combination of the two. Whatever you think would be good.
I was just thinking as like design wise, not actually animating the text, like the grass is what will be animated. I'm sorry I didn't clarify that. Let me do what I was saying. So if you have your text, we'll just leave it like that. And let me see, let me move this way. Close this. And then let's change the depth. Let's make it a little bit deeper. Probably 50 would be fine. And then we shall hit C to make these all separate. Cool. And then here I would take each one of these and maybe, obviously I would change where the anchor point is. So let's move that to the base of the letter. There. Whoop, wrong. Center as well. Just quickly doing it there. And then same with all of these. Right, and then you would go through, let me uncheck that, and you could just rotate these slightly, push them together, maybe like they're leaning on each other, just to give it like some kind of variation in the text to make it look a little bit different, unique. You don't have to do this. I was just saying that might help. Give it some visual interest. Let me see here. But still, obviously, being able to like read it. Like, let me see what I would do here. Probably like maybe so. And then take and just kind of moving it around until it looks kind of neat. You can do it if you want. You don't have to, though. I'm not going to be upset if you don't. If you just have the animated grass on there, that's fine. You can animate, though, the text. Like, you could put a plane down on the ground here, and then you could animate the text, like, slowly coming up like it's growing, right? That would also be something you could do. And then you would offset the position changes of both the text and the grass. So if you do your grass in After Effects, you'll let like the scene where the text comes up, and maybe when it's like halfway grown up or third of the way up is when you'll have the grass start moving up as well. And so the motion is offset, and so it'll kind of just be like I don't know how to describe it with my hands. I don't know why I did that, but that's kind of what I was thinking there. All right, we have Lee. Hey, Sarah, what's up?
So, are we required to use any of the 3D models, or not? Just curious.
Increase the volume there real quick. I couldn't hear it.
Hi, Ms. Mikara. So, are we required to use any of the 3D models, or not?
Yes, has to have a
just
3D.
curious.
One 3D scene. It doesn't have to be crazy. just one object that's 3D. All right, Sarah.
So I can't for the life of me get my Wi-Fi on the computer to work right now.
Oh, no.
So I'm just gonna do this through my phone for this one. I hope that's okay. But I'm gonna probably have to like close out of everything and restart the computer. But I wanted to ask, I know you mentioned in my feedback for my reel that I overused the transition. And I do agree. I think I just got a little bit too excited because I learned how to do it and I thought it looked good and I just overused it. But I was wondering if you knew any more like fun and like simple transitions that I could try. Thank you. So
that is an issue I think a lot of students struggle with in the beginning, which is very normal, is overusing the same thing in their videos. And it's because, like I said, it's like building a recipe and you're not like chefs right away. So you're not fully fluent in the language of animation and editing and like what looks good. It takes years to get used to that. And you know, so that's why we're here to let you know, hey, don't overuse that. I would do, if you're going to use different transitions, right? So the best way I can just show you here is, again, well, let me think. So when you have that one, like the zooming kind of thing, like warping into the next scene, I would maybe put that every 3 to maybe 4 cuts of clips, right? So that you might have that happen maybe two, maybe 3 times in the video. The rest of them, I would have hard cuts happening. If you want to use different types of transitions, I can look some different ones up to try and show you. Usually, like I like to do the masking transition, which we talked about when I was going over the 3-scene animation reviews. And I think it was Zoe. I can't guarantee, but I'm pretty sure Zoe did the one on the Great Barrier Reef. And she had the bag kind of floating across the screen, and then behind the bag was the masking technique that I showed. That one's pretty good. Usually in general, the transitions that are inside of After Effects aren't necessarily the best. It just kind of depends. Let me see. Transition. The gradient wipe one, maybe I would just, there's different kinds. There's like also ones where people will have shape layers moving across the screen and animate those. Let me see here. Change this. And I do not want to fill like that. And let me just create a shape layer. Oh, come on now. You won't do it? Anyways, let me just draw one. And whatever the shape is that you're using, you could either mask part of it out, right? If you have your pen tool and you select your mask, and you can mask out kind of a different shape. And then animate this on screen. And then just, let me say this. at some point something has to fully be filling up the screen, but these are kind of outdated. These like screen wipes are kind of outdated and they're not as popular anymore as like a clean look. So that's why I really don't teach you guys too much about transitions. So you can either animate the path here, right? Where you can stack your animations if you wanted to do your path. Why? Convert to, actually, that's not why. Is because it's the mask path that you would animate. So, like that. And then I'll move 12 frames ahead. And maybe take these two. That one, and hold down shift that one. And holding down shift, move it ahead. Move this one down. Oop. Select that one. Move that one down. Take this one. Move that one down. This one forward. Because you want the shape to like really retain its same size. I don't know. I hate doing transitions like that. I'll look some up that I think would be appropriate for your reel. And then I'll send those videos to you. How's that sound? Because I don't want to spend a ton of time doing a transition when I want to get to some other techniques for you guys. So, Kaylee.
So my question this week is basically, how would I transition my 3D scene to my 2D scene smoothly? Originally, I wanted to have my 3D scene at the end of the video where my crown, like my apple morphs into a crown, like what I stated in my storyboard. But now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like it would be easier to have it at the beginning when the crown comes in, originally introducing purple as royalty. But I'm afraid that with it being at the beginning, it's going to be really noticeable, seeing the transition from 3D at the beginning of the video to 2D. So I wasn't sure how I would go about that to make it look smooth. Thank you.
Sometimes just like a hard cut is fine. You don't have to unless it is like a morphing scene. That's why I want you guys to kind of stay away from like super complex morphing shapes, because they won't look, it would be really hard. I think it would take a really long time to animate the morph of a crown to an apple. If I went to your design brief, let me see, Kaylee. And we go to the beginning of your storyboard. I think that the crown in the beginning should be... I think the crown at the beginning should be the 3D crown here. And it can be spinning, which I will show you how to do. And then it can just maybe, you'll just animate it towards like it's going off screen, right? So let me see. Let me get my notation app up. Okay, what the heck is happening here? One second. Okay, so the crown's like spinning, right? And when it stops and slows down, then it can move off screen, right? In whatever direction you want the other scene to move on screen. So almost like a wipe. So let's say your other scene is coming from this direction here. You would want to move that crown this way. Let me do this. You're done rotating. You're ready to introduce your next scene. Your next scene is coming from this side of the screen. And so you will want to animate your crown in the same direction that the other one's coming, right? So like almost like an assembly line. Like moves in, stops, something happens, moves out. Same with your scenes. And so you can do that by just animating the PNG layer. You don't actually have to animate the crown moving off somewhere. You could just animate it because you don't want these to have backgrounds, right? You're gonna put the background into After Effects, and so you're not gonna want to use backdrops or anything like that. I guess, Eric, that's something you're going to want to think about, because maybe you're just going to want a plane instead of an actual studio. You would want it to just be a singular plane on the ground that the car could hit. And then what you would do is you would have that animation, right? So the crown, back to the crown thing, crown spinning, that's the animation that you capture in Cinema 4D. You render that out as a PNG sequence with the alpha channel, and then you bring that into After Effects. And then you will, once that's done spinning or to a certain point, then you're going to animate the position of the actual PNG sequence off screen. If that makes sense. Let me know if it does not, because I think that this one at the bottom is like the morphing into the crown. I think we talked about how I don't think that should happen. I think that the apple and the bird should just move from the top screen to the bottom screen. And then, let me see. It is known as a cross between red and blue, combining red's power and blue's stability. And then maybe what you could do is change your blend mode, right? So like these can move on top of each other. If you have a red bird, or I'm sorry, that's a blue jay. Let me do this. Gosh, come on. If you have a red apple and a blue bird, and they combine together, right? And they're going to create this center area that would be purple. So when they overlap, their blending modes create that purple color. And you can just go through, I think it's mix is the blending mode that you want to look at, but maybe we can try and get to that later in class. Nolan.
So my question for this week is, I was looking at the Colorscope, and there was this part that I really liked with this, and I was just curious, would After Effects be the best way to go about this, or would creating vectors in Illustrator and just making a bunch of different ones and then exporting them, because it is like pretty short. I wanted to do something similar to this. I was just wondering what.
That's actually hand drawn. That's hand animated. So if you have like Procreate, you could hand animate something similar, and then export it out as like some kind of sequence. I don't know how you export out. Is anyone who works in Procreate, have you guys tried animation in there yet? Or what you could do is you could draw different variants of the words and animate them inside of After Effects to create. Let me see here. So like, let's say I have a triangle, just shut that off, and another triangle, and not on the same shape layer, but like these are representing letters, right? These shapes do. And then what you could do is you could animate the rotation. Like let's say one starts there at -20, or we'll just start that one. Move a couple frames, change this one, move a couple frames, change this one again. Repeat the process. And then back to the originals. Oh, I did it again. Then you will put these as toggle hold keyframes. So what are, let me see. Let's do it. My type and my color I happen to pick, they match. It's so kind of crazy. Toggle hold keyframes they look like a square. You know how like the diamonds are obviously linear, and then the eased keyframes look like hourglasses, and the toggle hold will look like a block. And these, what it does is it doesn't change value until that next keyframe. So it looks like stop motion, right? If you do this, right click, keyframe assistant. I think actually with the toggle hold, there's one. Toggle hold keyframe. And then when you play it, obviously this is way too fast. Let me just drag this out. Oh. Drag it out like that. And so as you play it, it gives the impression that it is changing separately, right? And then you can also go up here and hit Alt and then loop it. Let me shut that off. And right click here, copy the expression only, Control V, and then it'll just kind of continue forever, right? And obviously what you would do is if you want the line variation to look different is you would just have to draw so many variations of that letter about the same size, but maybe just slightly different in some way. So like if you did it like this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different variations of rotation I did. You could draw 5 separate Bs, and then you would have to, you could bring them in and just sequence one frame at a time, but that's a lot of work. That is a lot of work. You're just better off hand animating it in Adobe Animate, to be honest. I think so. All right, Janelle.
Hello, my question is with my After Effects, with my reel. When I save and close out of the file and then go back in, it'll say that some of the files cannot be found and I have to go in and replace the footage. So I'm just not sure why it's doing this. I have them all in a folder that I loaded into the After Effects, so I'm just not sure why it's doing this or how I can fix it. So yeah, thank you.
So if your sorry, I didn't mute that. If your folder, if you move your folder, your assets one, into the same spot that your After Effects folder is in, I don't think that it'll count for that. I don't know. It also could be another issue that you're running into. So what I would do is I would reload them in and then come up to here to File and then go down to where it says Increment and Save. And what that will do is it will create another file with the number after it. And it's essentially like, okay, at this point you want another file created. And it's like for having previous versions, it's like keeping multiple save files in a video game. I don't know if you guys do that, but sometimes I'll do that in case my video game crashes and then I can go back to a certain point. That's essentially what this is doing. And so I would increment and save and see if you are still having that same issue when you open the second one up. And if you are, then I would move the assets folder into like your general project folder location and then try and relink it. Then that is really the only thing I can think to do right now regarding that. Let me know if that works for you, Janelle, because I don't want you to keep coming into that issue. I'm going to delete this. Whatever, I guess I'm not. Next question. Jessica.
Since we made some of our animations with the Adobe programs over here, I've been wondering if later down the line, when we study these more, will we be learning these other programs or something for more complicated works? Or would we be relying more on like Cinema 4D?
So if you take more of the 3D classes, any of them with Casey teaches you how to use Cinema 4D as well as Substance Painter, and then he also teaches you like I think you guys work in Unity to build video games and stuff like that, and so you will use different programs here. I'm not sure if we're still doing character animator. That might be in the next higher level animation class. But yeah, you'll be working. We don't really have any focus on hand drawn animation in our program here. But if you just, like I said in previous classes, if you take the knowledge that you have now and you apply it to hand drawn animation, I think you guys should, you'll be able to understand. Obviously there's more tips and tricks in hand drawn animating that you'll have to learn along the way. But I really suggest getting that one book that I was talking about if you guys do want to start working in hand drawn. Here is Yvette's question.
Alright, this is for the revisions. I was able to do the bubble animation from the feedback you gave me in the beginning, and
They
I
look
actually
awesome.
like it a lot better than the still bubbles I had in the background.
Yeah, the bubbles look great.
It gives it more life into like this scene here. I really enjoy that. And I also did the animation for my plant in the background as well, which again, I really like. It makes you very proud of this scene in general.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, that's why I tell you guys to like kind of stack them. Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just read in the chat and Eric said you might have changed back to Janelle's question. You might have changed the location of your assets folder at some point. And then what happens is the link breaks and then it's like freaking out. So you might just have to delete that file and just put it in and then just re-put it in manually as well. But back to your video of it, yeah, I mean, just those little types of motion brings a scene together cohesively, right? Because if you only have one thing on screen moving, it just kind of looks dull, especially when you have like an intricate background. It's just not as interesting as you have those little subtle movements happening, right? They're not supposed to be big and boisterous. It's not supposed to draw the viewer's attention right away, but your eyes should gradually land on those things, and it really does make your scene look much better. So I'm happy that you've found that through this process. I'm going to continue playing.
And I did add the voiceover that you gave me. I picked one of the 5 takes that you gave me, and I did put it through the audition for Adobe. How I kind of did it, there was a lot of ways to do it, but one that really I was able to do easily was kind of just cutting out what I wanted, and the rest would have been
that's fine.
erased. So you just highlight, press delete, and then same for like the rest of them, like the parts you don't want, etc. Which I did, and it ended up sounding really nice, which I liked. It was a bit of a struggle when it came to the audio because the other ways I wanted to do it with like the razor cut and stuff, it wouldn't let me do it. I'm not sure why, but I ended up just doing the highlighting and then just deleting, which worked. So yeah.
I'm curious if you're talking about razor cutting. Like I'm assuming you're talking about inside of Audition, and sometimes you will get issues. Don't worry about it. I think you kind of get the gist of it. And also, if you bring a file into, and it works with audio as well, if you have your layer in After Effects and you want to split it at a certain point, all you have to do is hit Shift Control D, and that will split the layers. So if I type that here for you, split layer equals Shift plus Control plus D. And that'll split that layer in that spot. And so you can do that as well with audio files. It just, I mean, you're going to have the same amount of layers either if you split it up and have separate cuts in After Effects, or if you split them up and have separate files of them, right? But either way, that is kind of, that's a little shortcut that you guys should keep in the back of your mind. And I think that was it for your question. Yeah, your stuff looks really nice. I'm excited to see the full video. Angelina, in the chat.
Hello, everyone. Okay. My question.
Hello.
Okay. So, in the lecture video, you like pulled up the footage here, and now it's not gonna work for me. My goodness. Okay, right? Like you pulled the footage up here, and then you like did something with this. And then I don't know what you did. I just see it says time marker relative to start footage. So I thought this was just like, oh, to show you like the frames. I didn't know exactly how you clipped it. You said like you'd clip it and then you bring it down here, and
Those
I didn't
tiny,
know.
those tiny little brackets right here, that's your in point and that's your out point. And your in point and your out point means that where the video starts, where you want the video to start, and where you want it to end, are your in and out points. So naturally, when you drag a video into there, double click it, the in and out points are going to be at the beginning of the clip and the end of the clip, right? But let's say you want just a section in the middle, you would bring your cursor like over to here. Let me do this. You'd bring it here, and you'd click this button right here then. And then you would bring the cursor, and that would trim off all of this, right? So all of this would go away. Gone, gone, gone. And then you're left with it starting here. Your clip would start there. And then you would move your cursor or your little playhead. It's called a playhead. You would move it, like, let's say here's where you wanted the end one to do. You would click here on this little bracket for the out point, and then that would just kind of delete everything on this side of it. And then what you do is you select this little button right here, and that's going to drop that onto your timeline for you in just this little section specifically, rather than having to go scrub through the timeline with your playhead here and then having to hit alt bracket and then going forward in alt bracket. You just get more of like a minute control when you do it through this section, and it will automatically like just trim those ends of your video. So let me play the rest of your question here.
It wasn't working for me, right? I don't know what you did with this. It didn't work for me. So what I would do is I would
Blow
throw
it up.
in here,
Just kidding.
like wherever. I'll just do it at the top, beginning. And then I would just trim it like this. But the issue with like moving this, and if you like mess with it a lot, I was noticing that it would like there'd be like, it's probably not gonna work now. But like sometimes it gets really distorted or something happens to it when you're trimming it, and then it gets these really weird green glitches, like it glitches completely out. I don't know if this is the proper way to.
You can do that. I think what you're running into is like an issue with your graphics card trying to keep up with you, like moving and shuffling the layer around like that. And so then the graphics card kind of gets overloaded, and that's why it's showing you the green screen. And because it shouldn't glitch out when you do that. You should be able to do that, but unless you guys are really working on like a gaming laptop or a bigger PC, then you'll run into these weird little glitchy issues and stuff like that. I worked on a Mac, like an iMac through school inside of After Effects a lot, and I was okay with that, and that was a 2015 iMac. And it seemed to work, but you also have to remember that with updates, right? Things like updates to software, things change on how maybe the program is ran with your actual hardware. And so sometimes you get issues like that. But in general, I think like if you had an Apple laptop or something, it should be able to run After Effects fine. It just has a harder time running things like Cinema 4D. And then some laptops, if you just got you bought a laptop thinking, hey, I'm just coming to school and all I need to do is search the internet and type, usually those laptops do not have enough horsepower to run these programs smoothly. And so the graphics card is going to be like, what the, like losing my mind. And so I think that's the issue there. So what I would just do is try the trim thing, and see if that works for you that way.
To trim, this is just what I have been doing, and then stacking them appropriately. Is that the best way to do it?
Yeah, I answered that. All right, we have Juliana.
Where is it? The formatting was all messed up with this. It's like it couldn't find some of the font files and stuff. I had tried to like replace them, so things might be wonky.
Okay. I wonder if your scenes were kind of thrown around.
Oh my god, it zoomed in so much. I hate these programs. Yeah, what is that? Is it just like slight adjusting?
So if you guys want a shortcut to zoom in all of the Adobe products, every single Adobe products has the same zoom shortcut. And hold on, it is Control plus or minus, right? That's not the minus sign. Let me put this here. So actually just Control plus and you can zoom in, and Control minus and you'll zoom out. And so that gives you the more minute way to zoom in and out of the program like that. Let me go back to your video. Like this. Like if I go here and I click onto, you have to be on your composition scene, right, into your stage, and you just Control plus, Control minus, and you zoom in and out, and it works inside Illustrator, inside Photoshop, and it should work the same way inside InDesign. I am not a fan of InDesign. I mean, I'll use it if I have to, but I do not like it.
What? Queen. Oh my god, it zoomed in so much. Slight adjusting. Nope, that's the wrong way. I don't know how I'm zooming. Alright. That's it.
At the top, it's all like 4,000%.
That's my question. I feel like I have a lot in, I feel like I have a lot going on with mine, so I might change what I have.
That's okay. I think you guys will kind of notice that, right? Because we are on a short deadline. That's why I said I'm not going to get like super picky when grading these. And I'll give you some changes for next Thursday's class, because right, these are due in a couple days. Last day to get it to me is like Monday, end of day. You know, I'm not gonna, like, I might give you a lot of changes to do and just get the changes that you can done on that one and turn that one in on Thursday along with the reel. And I'm just not going to be super harsh on grading that one for you guys, because I know, you know, the tight deadline is not your fault. So, yeah. So if you need to adjust things and like maybe adjust your scenes to make them a little less complex at the moment, then you can do that. And then you can always revisit the project later at a different time when you're like finalizing your reel with all of your work from all of your semesters. And you can update it with different animations then. All right, we have Bear.
Good evening. Yeah, green is for sure my favorite color. I had was trying to think like, should I do a different color? And I was thinking hard, like trying to think of another color, and then I was like, I'm gonna just do green. But I do remember you saying something about like creating other people's or mimicking stuff can be plagiarized or plagiarism. So I'm like, oh yeah, I did forget that. And I wasn't even thinking about that when I was like creating the video. I just like pictured it in my head. Like I literally pictured the whole video in my head. Like, oh, I know exactly what I'm about to do. But so I'll change it. And yeah.
Technically, I don't want you guys to get the sense that I'm like it's plagiarism. Because I feel like that's such a harsh way. If you like took someone else's work, if you saved a video from online and turned that into me, that is plagiarism, right? Because you did nothing there. It's not your own work. But people create things all the time that are, people create art and illustrations with other people's intellectual property. So intellectual property is a little bit different, right? It's your idea that you came up with, and that design is your property. So then, for instance, like in the whole world of Dungeons and Dragons right now, the company who essentially owns like Dungeons and Dragons name, right? They have started to do something where they're wanting to take a cut from people who create some kind of product that has that lore attached to it, right? And that is like using they're like it's our intellectual property. If you're going to use that, you have to pay to use it, and then you have to like essentially pass that cost onto the consumer. So I'm not saying that that is a terrible thing, right? Like if you wanted to do a Monsters Inc. or a Loki animation later on, you can do that, and you can use like something you modeled yourself. It's just for like the sake of your reel and putting it for an employer to look at. You want them to see maybe a side of you that comes to design, right? And maybe the things that your brain can think up, rather than they're like, oh, they have all this work, but it's all Mario, right? Or they have all this stuff. So, like, I mean, it just gives you a leg up. And so that's why we don't really want you guys using that kind of stuff when you're working in this class.
I didn't like when I was picturing how the video was gonna be in my head, I wasn't thinking of like the animating it process of it. So I was just like trying to think like, oh yeah, this is gonna look so cool when I finish. But then I'm like, dang, I have to like actually like do this like so I'll have to like change it. And yet I
You
didn't
scared
realize like
yourself?
this was gonna take a long time, but then I just like this again. So I'll probably like change it to Angelina said, like some type of flower or maybe like
Yeah.
a oak tree or
Yeah, do
something.
something like something that you guys can get done within you guys know what your capabilities are when it comes to illustration, and should know that at least a little bit right now as far as doing things in Cinema 4D. And so I would take that knowledge that you guys have and apply it to this, right? You can just do what you're capable of within the amount of time that you have, and just make it. I've seen what you guys have done in a weekend with the specifically with the 3 scene animations. Like you guys did some nice work. And so, just similar to this, right? Just think of it as the color scope, and you're just adding an extra scene. So I don't want you guys to get like so anxious about it. It is it's the same thing. It's just different facts, and you're just adding one extra scene, and one of them has to be 3D. So think of it like that.
But if I do a flower with a face, then it can be like it would be like more original. Because now I think about it, if I did an oak tree with a face, it'd be like Mother Willow. So I'd have to try to like stay away from like that type of thing. Um, so I'll redo that for sure. And I think that's it. I remember what it was. Um, if I were to like rig the plant, the spider plant in on Cinema 4D, um, I'm trying to think like if I were to pull up 2 different like projects and like try to position like the leaf, and like if I were to 3D model the money, if I could like position it in the same area, that way it would look like when the petals falling, like it transitions into the money. Like I'm trying to think, like, but yeah, I'm like trying to like it's like weird because I'm like.
So what I'm thinking would be easier for you to do is you could do a cut where maybe the leaves start to fall off the plant, right? And they're falling down, and as one of them falls off as it's falling off the screen, you just cut to the next scene, which would be the spiraling money. And I think that it would kind of give like a similar feel of like just falling, right? I think that to do that in 3D would take a lot more work. I do feel your project, I think the one, which scene of yours would be the best in 3D? I think that this one would be good in 3D. The first scene of like the water, you could just do like a little, you could still create a little dude that looks like Mike Wazowski by creating a sphere, right? And obviously you would increase the segments so it's smoother. And then you could duplicate that, Control C, Control V. And that other one, you could scale it down. And then move it out. Actually, let me do this. And then kind of have like already a one-eyed monster started, right? And then you could put a texture on there with like just a dot to make his pupil. And you could create that in Illustrator and put it on him, and he could just be a different color, right? He doesn't have to have horns. He could have little legs, or he could just be like, you could add a mouth here. He would just be like a little monster. And you could honestly, what would probably save you time right now is creating a texture that has the mouth illustration, creating creating material that has the mouth illustration that you did in like Illustrator, and then the same with the eyeball, and then just dropping it on there. And that way you can, it might, remember it has to go around a round surface, so don't put a lot of detail into that illustration that you would do in Illustrator. But you could do something similar to that. I'm just like crazy pressing right now. Always an option, right? See, I don't know what, I hit caps lock. By the way, you guys, if you turn on your caps lock again, I'll remind you that that will make your scene go away. But I think that this scene here, in fact, let me look some stuff up for you, and I'll send it. I did look some stuff up for some of you guys, some techniques that I wasn't going to be able to go over today. And has some links for you guys. So what I'll do is I'll put a document into like a PDF or some kind of like Google Doc or something into the Slack channel, and I'll put it on the announcement page where you guys can go there and see the techniques that I'm gonna like add to there. The money scene you could still do in 3D if you wanted to as well. All right, now I think we have two more questions maybe. Nick.
Question for this week: when is the Colorscope thing due? Because we have to turn in that on Wednesday, but when is the actual thing separately due? That's all I want to know. That's my question for this week. Thank you.
So how the due dates are working right now is your first copy of your Colorscope is due no later by the end of day Monday. And then both your reel with all of the revisions made and your updated Colorscope, when I give you, because on Tuesday's class, I'm going to give you guys feedback on those Colorscopes. And so then you have 1 day to get that done, right? You have Wednesday night to get that done. Actually, what I will do is I will give you guys until the beginning of class. So let me close this out. I think that will be a little bit more fair for you guys since this part is kind of like a quick turnaround time. So I'll go to the modules. And so the final portfolio links and the final draft, your second cut of the Colorscope is going to be due on next Thursday, so you'll have a week. But by, I'll give you guys until 5 p.m. There you go. I think that's very fair. An hour before class. Have it all done an hour before class. But the first draft of the Colorscope needs to be done Monday at midnight. And then the second draft is going to be due with the edited reel. All right, you guys. So let's get into some different techniques here that you guys were kind of talking about. So let me just kind of get out of here. I went through and created a couple different things that you guys could see on different techniques like a wavelength and like this kind of, let me do this because this and this one go together. This trailing shape that is like a wave shape as well that you can put behind a shape or behind another object, and then kind of like this smoke effect that I also made for you guys. So we're going to go over those first, and then I'll get to some other ones here. And I want to try and get to a crown in 2D and possibly a crown in 3D. And then okay, so the smoke effect we're going to do up here. Yeah, let's just see how far we get on these. I'll give you a few different options here and then we'll move further. In fact, let me do, Brandon asked how to create like a pattern, a moving pattern instead of a shape. And so I am going to, let's do that. With the wavelength, right? We'll kind of start on the wavelength and we'll see where we get. Not quite sure why this. Okay, let's create a new solid here. I have my composition 1920 by 1080, 24 frames a second, you know, standard what we've been doing. And I am going to create a new solid. Let me take my camera. I'm going to make myself very tiny in the corner. Let's change the solid color. We can do a purple, but let's just do a deep purple. Okay. And I'm going to lock that layer. And then I am going to turn on my title action safe. And I'm going to select my pen tool. And up here I am going to shut off the fill and turn on the stroke. And let's change the color of the stroke to something that coordinates with this purple. So move it up and over, and then maybe slightly more blue, more of like a violet. I like that color. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to I'm going to click once, and then I'm going to move over to this side, and I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to click again. And let's increase the size of this stroke. Let's first rename this wavelength GTH. And let's increase this to like, I think 28 is obviously too big. Let's try 10. Let's try 15. All right. And let's center this, right? So I'm going to hit V, align this to my composition. And there's a couple different ways that we can go about working on this. If we want a controlled type of wavelength, we can do that by adding the wave warp effect. And the wave warp effect, you guys are going to see, is extremely versatile in using it in different ways to create different objects, right? So right now we're talking about like visual or wavelengths or just a wavelength in general. And you can, in your effects, you'll just type wave warp under the distort, and you're going to drag that onto your layer there. And you're going to see all of a sudden it gets all squiggly. And we want to just, up here, your different settings will allow you to adjust this in different ways, and it'll change the way this looks. So I want, obviously, my wave height to be much higher than that, so I'm going to probably crank that up. Let's bring that. You don't want to get too high, because then you'll see it starts to distort your stroke width. Like, it's obviously much thinner there and thicker at the top of the wave. So I'm going to probably just put 50 in here, which seems pretty good. And then I'm going to increase the height or the width quite a bit, so it's pretty far away from each other. I think 200 is kind of far. Let's try 150. That looks good. And then you can mess around with the direction here if you want to, but we're going to keep it at 90, not at 0, but at 90 degrees so that we can actually see it. And when I just hit play now, because there's a wave speed happening here, when I hit play, it's going to move across the screen. Great, cool, not too bad, right? You guys can always change the wave height animation. So let's say, first of all, let's say I wanted the wave to somewhat taper at the end. So it's kind of smaller here and it builds to be taller in the middle and then it fades off. If you pin your wave right here, it will have different effects. So I will click that and I'll hit all edges, and notice that from this edge to this edge, it pins that. So if let me turn off the title action save, because we really don't need that anymore. And then when I play it, it looks like it, it starts from the edges of the screen. And then we could, like I said, we can animate this. So let's say we wanted the wave height at 12 frames to be 50. And right here, you bring it down to, let's work backwards, right? So we're put it down to 0 here. And then you could animate like from a straight line into that kind of waving motion. And then you can always make it smaller. And then you can always do the width too, right? So let's say, let me hit you on this. And let me do this real quick. Wavelength, before I forget, wave warp effect. So you guys know which ones I'm going to use, because I'm going to duplicate this in a second. But let's move the playhead over, because we're going to animate the width as well. Keyframe that, move it back. Keyframe that down to maybe 50, so that it'll, whoa, too close. Obviously that's way too fast. So I would probably not even do 50. I'd probably just go back to 100 right here. And then play it. Much better there. So you can, and then you can offset those, and you can obviously ease that. Let's just say quick ease for right now, and then I offset this a couple frames. And there you have like this wave warp animation, right? And you can always increase the height and stuff like that. But this is really good if you have like that consistent look, right? This would look really cool if you had you know, like a heart monitor at the hospital, like beep, 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 kind of, not really specifically that, I guess, because that they spike and they change differently, but something similar. You guys, I'm sure you guys could think of something. So that is one way to do kind of like a wavelength. Another way, let's duplicate this again, and let's rename this to the wiggle animator. I think that's what it's called. I might have to change that. But let's delete this wave warp off of that one. And we are going to shut that off. And instead of going to an effect, we're actually going to go to the drop down menu here. And this little add button, you guys are going to click on that. And you want to add wiggle path. And so let me see here. Let me rename that. Pretty sure it's the path. I might have to. And you would drop down here. And notice already that like it's obviously not a straight line anymore, right? But we want it to, and if you play it, you can see that. This is going to be a great way to get a random kind of look to it. And so let's say we want the size to be a little bit taller. We want it 175. And the detail is how tight you want them to be, right? So the detail is like your width. I'm going to put just 10 in here. I think 10 works fine. Now you can leave it at corner. What this means is how your edges look. And so if I move up here, the edges are really jagged, right? Which if that's what you're going for, that's fine. But then if I go down here and I change it to smooth, it will kind of round those out. And I can, if I play that, it is going to change, obviously, like how the warp is happening. You can change the speed with the wiggles per second. So if I want it to go faster, I could be like way faster, 6, right? If I want it to go slower, I could go 0.5, and it goes much slower. With that being said, if we wanted to get kind of a similar, like that pattern, if we go back to what Brandon asked, right, in the pattern shape, we have something with kind of wiggly lines. Oh no. I see my chat disconnected, so I'm wondering if you guys are having issues with the live stream. If anyone's in the chat, will you guys let me know if you're having an issue with the live stream? Anyways, and so we want to kind of create that pattern that we can put into a masked object. And so instead of just duplicating this over and over and moving it up, what I'm going to add on it is a repeater. These are stackable, which is really cool, right? So I would just, as long as it is below, the layering kind of works a little bit odd here, but if it's below something, then it will affect all of them. If I brought it up above the shape, it's not going to affect anything. So the hierarchy works from the top to the bottom. And I want to make it so that they're all in the same position. So I'm going to zero out the position there. And then I am going to actually, let's increase the copies to like 20. And I think I have to change the Y position. And we want it to show on top too, so I would just update the offset right there. And then we kind of have this wiggling animation, maybe increase these so I can go a little bit further off. If I wanted to change the stroke width, I could just come here and put 10. And then the strokes are smaller. I can always make them be tighter together, right? Because that's what he was kind of looking at there. So you can do this, and then what you would do is you would create a shape, another shape layer. We'll do let's do a polygon. Let's have fun today. And I'm going to stop playing this, obviously. I don't want anyone to have any issues there. And I'm going to hold down Shift. Oh, let's do that again. Create that shape, holding down shift, hitting V. Let's center that into our comp. And for just the sake of being able to see it, let's add a fill color and take out the stroke. And then what we would do is we could take this wavelength and we could rotate it a little bit like that. Actually, I don't want it to line up perfectly with the angle of the shape. But then we can just go into our masking options and mask it into there, right? We don't see the underlying shape color. So if I just undo this and I duplicate this polygon, let me see, polygon, Control D, drop that. And then I would actually, what I do is I rename this mask, right? Because that one's going to be the mask object. And I can drop that one below, take the layer with all of the wiggling lines, make it with the mask there. I would obviously change the color of this so that we could see it. Maybe something darker. There you go. And then when I play it, it's masked inside of your shape. So that is a way to create like that masked. Okay, good. Thank you for confirming that with me, Eric. That is a way to create like an animated pattern inside of a masked shape. You could do this with any type of pattern. It doesn't have to be lines. Like you could have circles like inside. And if you just make it and mask it, you know, you should be able to have this. And then you can scale, right? We would obviously want to parent these together so that everything moves at the same time. So I would actually parent everything to the base polygon. So I would select both the mask and the lines layer, and then I would parent it to this one so that if I wanted to scale this polygon, I could do so. Scale it to 100, down to 0, and then it scales everything with it. So that's kind of how you do that. Let me... Ooh. Pattern and shape. Pre-comp. Okay, there we go. Another thing... What was the other one that I wanted to show you guys? So there was the wavelength one. Okay, the trailing one. This one's cool. Using a similar thing that you would do. You're going to use a wave warp again. Now, okay, let me. I did not want to do that. What did I do that for? Sorry, you guys. Let me. Okay. Inside of here, we want to first start off by creating a shape with a fill. Or what you could do is create a solid layer and then add, let's do a different color, right? Let's do orange. Here. And the first shape that I want to make is like a kind of almost like a triangle, but not quite. I want them to kind of taper up close to each other at the top. Right there. And then I would pick V and I would select this and kind of move this in until it looks a little bit more even there. And this is a great animation to do with like a cape or yeah, if you're just kind of creating like a trailing effect behind an object. But I'll just name it cape for today's purposes. And let's create a circle at the top so that we have kind of something covering the top section of this. And I'm gonna, not to the same shape layer. I accidentally added it to this one. I'm going to click off and then create this shape, holding down Shift. Let's fill it with white or a lighter colored orange. There, that works. And so we'll just put in their head. And we're going to add that wave warp to the cape shape. Let me see here. I don't know why my brain is like looking at things but not registering them. And in fact, I am going to take this cape shape and let's center the anchor point. And actually, if I were to move it or rotate it, I would want it to rotate from this section up here. Right, so I'm going to move that up there. All right, and we obviously have the wave kind of happening on here, but we want to increase this wave. And let's increase the width. Again, let's try 50, 150. And let's pin this at the top edge. And so it's going to be pinned up there. And so the motion will come from this section at there. Now we have this issue where we're seeing the bottom show up there. If this were a cape, that is fine, right? If I were to bring this up even more, and you were to, it looks like a cape, obviously, already. Now, but if I didn't want that, you could add this effect called grow bounds. And what that does, and not this one, but this one, the utility one, is the one that you want to use. And you'll add that to the cape layer and make sure that it is actually on top of everything. And you want to increase this a lot. And in fact, I would have to, like, obviously it's increased way too much here. I should probably get it with 100. And because of that, I would just take these edges and move them down until you can't see them. And I wouldn't even hold down Shift. I would just do that. But in general, you could do this too. Add the grow bounds. This will work with something else in a little bit here. But this is, oh, I guess I did need that on there. So the grow bounds on there did help, because if I shut this effect off, it shows it there, but then when I click it on, you don't see that anymore. Now I want to, I think, what did I do last time? I think I put the wave speed at 1 is fine. Let me update the, what is it at 0? That's not bad. I could do this. And then I could add a mirror effect. Let me see what it looks like. It does go off the side there. So let me undo that, and maybe I'm going to make it smaller at the top and just decrease my wave height to like 30 so it doesn't get so tall, and then show over there. Yeah, this works. Okay, cool. And then if I want it to be the same on both sides though, I would go in here and type in mirror under distort and drag that below everything. And then I would just move this X value over until you see it mirroring itself. Probably 920 there. You can see this little dot here, right? This is the controller. That's where it is moving from. So if I do that there and then play this, you have like this fully symmetrical edge there, and you could even duplicate this shape, drop it below, and scale it, or just change the shape path of this one, maybe I want, let me go shape here under the path, select the path. Maybe I want this to kind of go further out, holding down shift, and change the color of it to maybe something a little bit darker. Maybe like more yellow. And then I can always alternate the size of these. So maybe this one would be 40 and the wave width would be 160. Maybe make it longer. Oh, not 16. Make the distance in between longer. And then you can obviously come in here and mess around with like the phase, so they're not equal on there. You can play with the ooh, crazy. You can also play along with the direction of the wave. Obviously it's going down. The one before was going up. In fact, it wouldn't be going up, it would be going down. So let me change the direction here to 180 so it goes the other way. I'm happy I looked at that and caught it. So that way it's going out from the, it almost looks like hair at this point. And then you can change, like, what if you change the, and this is what I was going to tell you, Kaylee, for your Blue Jay and the apple mixing, is you can change the blend mode here. So overlay, not that one. Which one does the full color? Multiply. You know, you can mess around here and change it so that when the blue and the red mix, it makes a purple, right? But yeah, so another way to kind of make something of a cape, or this works well for like curly hair too. You can do some if the head were further down, or you had, that might be a little bit harder, but you had other layers that looked like wavy hair kind of circling the head. You could do that too. But a lot of people use this technique. Let's see. Let's pre-compose this. Control C. Let's shut this off. You could do the same for smoke, honestly, too. I did the smoke over here where I created the shape and I added the wave warp to it. And what I did is I grew the browns, right, so that it's exactly what I just did before, but I stacked the wave warp. So now, instead of just the one here, there's two versions of it. And I went through, so the wave height on the first one, I want you guys to pay attention to that one first, is 40. And then I changed the width and the direction. And I pinned it to the bottom here, which would, honestly, if I were to take this, I would rotate it 90 degrees the other way so that it looked like that, right? And more smoke type. And the wave speed is at 1. And then I just Control D, I selected the wave warp effect and I hit Control D and it duplicated it for me. And then I went in and I changed those same values. So I changed it from 40 to 80 and from 150 to 240. And then I changed the direction that this one was in. And I changed the speed. I dropped the speed down, right? But when you just duplicate this, it keeps all of the other settings that you change. So all you got to do in there is go in and update those. Now, something else you guys should know is when you're doing, but that, back to this real quick, I want to add, it just adds like more of a randomness when you start stacking these, and it looks more like smoke. I would personally drop this wave speed way down, 0.5 there, and then this one probably even 0.25, so that it was really slow. Even that is kind of long. But that's a good way to create kind of a smoke effect. Can you change... You can animate the phase too so that it moves upwards. And not just around, but going up and down. That's what I would animate there. So I would do... Alright, so if I put this at 0, 0, or 1, whatever. Phase there and move it up probably quite a long ways. Because smoke moves very slow. And I probably wouldn't actually go too far. Maybe like 100 in the phase. And then when I play it... Oh, it should move up. I'm not sure why it's not. I would have to look at that a little bit more. I think that... Not the direction. You wouldn't change that. Let me try the phase of this one too. Maybe adding a transform effect underneath would change the position of this instead of the phases. So maybe if I had it here and I change the position, for 4 seconds. And I don't know if it's gonna, I think it's gonna move the entire layer. Yeah. Don't do that. I'll try and figure that last part out. But yeah, like, I mean, obviously a weird wiggly line you've got there too. All right, let's move into some other techniques here. Crown in 2D. Let's do that real quick. So we will, let's say we have, let's grab a rectangle. And, oh yeah, perfect, we're at yellow color. So I'm gonna draw like a band that stretches across the entire composition, right? And then I'm just gonna do like a quick crown kind of thing. So let me add, I'm gonna add another shape. I'm gonna add a polystar here, not there. I am just going to click on contents and add a polystar and bring that up here. Let me add a fill to this. Under the polystar. Change the points to 3. That way I get some kind of triangle, right? And I want to change the position. I want to drop it down here. I actually want this behind the rectangle, so I'd bring the rectangle up like that. And so this one's centered, and I would duplicate. I would group these, Control G to group, and I would just put triangle. And duplicate this polystar and change the positions on them. One right there. The other one could be over here. Come on, right there. Then these ones as well. Ah, grab the wrong one. That was the first one. Second one. Only one. Duplicate. Okay, so let's say we have our crown, right? We can even put a jewel in the middle of it with an ellipse. If I grab the circle and holding down shift, draw the ellipse. The ellipse is the same color. Let's change this to like, I don't know, green, emerald. Okay, so we see it. And then you would think it would be centered, but of course it's not. Close enough right there. Okay, that works. So we have our crown. And you could obviously illustrate this in Adobe Illustrator at the same size and still doing this like flat, straight view of the crown. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate this one, I think, and put a fill on it in the effects panel. And we'll just fill it to like a deeper color than the yellow that it was. So let's bring that yellow over here. We'll click that. We're going to say, sure, why not? This color, we're going to make it darker. And then we're going to pre-compose these together. I think that is, yeah. This should work. And then on this crown pre-comp, we are going to add a, I think it's called cylinder, CC cylinder. We're going to drop it right onto that crown pre-comp. And you have a crown, but the inside of it, you can change the shading on here as well. So if you want it brighter, you can change the ambient color, the diffuse, for like how it's diffusing, how the light is diffusing, right? So if it's softer, kind of harder light. If you want that specular highlight in there. So you can change all these kind of things. The shading at least. The light, the intensity, you can change where that light is. And so this is like a faux kind of 3D, right? I would actually duplicate this and then I think this bottom one, I mean, there's no point of it being in here right now. You don't even really have to pre-comp this, I don't think. Let's do this. X to bring that off. And then we're going to delete the crown pre-comp. And we're going to go into the project panel, which I accidentally closed. And we're going to delete that crown pre-comp in there because I'm going to make a new one. But inside of here, Control V to paste that shape again. Okay, so we're back to kind of square one. Let's add that CC cylinder onto here. And let's duplicate this. Duplicate, drop it below, and this is the layer that we're going to add that fill on. And I think the fill has to be above, maybe below. Let me see how we have to do this. I know there's a way. I mean, I guess it's not going to matter. If the thing I'm trying to do is make it so that the inside color is darker than this one, but I guess you don't need to, especially if you're doing this all in one color, really. It doesn't necessarily have to look like, oh, the fill did work. It was just not on the inside. I would have to look a little bit into that and maybe how to get that to go on the inside of it. But you can just use this cylinder, and then you can animate the, I think the rotation of it. Not that one. There we go. You have the rotation right there that you can animate. So, yeah. So one way to do a crown inside of After Effects. And you could also do, let's see, let's reset that. One inside of Cinema 4D. If we delete these. And you can add a, where is it? There used to be, there's a torus there. There's the tube. Add the tube. All right. And obviously we want like the tube to be thinner here. Oh, don't do that. Maybe not as tall. The band around. And then I would increase the segments of this tube. Rotation segments, so like not that many. Probably 20 would be okay. Because it's okay if you get a little bit of the ridges on there. And then let's hit NB because we want to see our lines there and we want to start working with them, but we have to make this editable. So I'm going to hit C there. And I'm going to select kind of, I don't want the, I want it to loop select. So let's see, Shift C, loop selection, which is UL. So, and it's going to select loops here, but I want it to take this loop and maybe, let's see, how do I want to do this? E. Okay. I want to select both of these, and I'm going to hit T, and I'm going to kind of expand these in. No, that's not it. I want to... It's like I want to bring the lines in a little bit more, and I know there's a shortcut, and I can't remember what it's called. And we worked on this last semester. Ring selection. That's a new one. I feel like I have not played with that yet. And then loop selection. And I could do this and this. And let me see here. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? Let me look into this one. I'm going to tag you guys in this one from last semester. I feel like I fully forgot how to, it's like bevel, like maybe it's not beveling it in. It is, gosh dang it. Maybe it has to be polygon mode. We can extend these sections up. That's what we could do. So you don't even have to bring it in really. So let's select that one. Select every two. Two. Hopefully this works out for us based on how we did it. Oh, and it does not. Okay, so we'll just have 4 in the background. So that's the back of the crown. Okay, you guys. And then I'm going to hit T-E-R-E. And bring these up a little bit. So that obviously you would want to think about how many sections you're going to skip if you're doing this. Because now what I would have done is I would have changed the segments. I would have added an extra segment on there. In fact, let me undo that and let me unselect this one. And then just kind of raise these ones up. Let me right click on this. That's how I can find it. It is inset. Yes, inset. Gosh dang, that's the one I wanted to find. So if you right click on it, you can see which ones are which, and you can do extruding out, which would extrude the objects, right? Or you can bevel it, which as I go there, it'll make it taller. So all of a sudden I have this crown, a weird looking crown, but it is a crown nonetheless. And then you can also add gemstones to these and whatever else you want to do. And you can just kind of model this to your own delight. But the crown is a fun one. The crown will be a fun one to make. And so if you're just, if you have that panel selected, or specifically let's do, like I'm selecting a loop section, UL to grab a loop. Okay, we'll try that one right there. No. Just gonna go here. Just like that. And then you right click. And then, so MT, it tells you right next to it what the shortcuts are for them. So I would, if I want to inset that more, MW. Nice. Okay, see, you can do that. Obviously, my geometry is getting all wonky here because I'm doing something crazy. But yeah, that's how you would model your crown inside of Cinema 4D. And let's go to, and then also inside of After Effects, right? So if you draw something a lot nicer in here, it's going to obviously look a lot better than this one. Let me see. Oh, let's do the kind of light flickering one. We have a half an hour left in class. Let's do this one because this one's cool because I think Janelle had something in her. It's hard to see, but here, let me zoom in here. When I play this, these little areas, it gives like light, right? It looks like light. And so, how did I do this? Let me... Okay, cool. We'll just create a new comp project. In class, new comp. 1920, 1080. Okay, so we'll do this like glow and flicker. Okay. And let's add a background to it. Let's do this deep cyan color. Change it up. And I'm going to lock that layer, and then I'm also going to add a circle into the center and change the color so it's something more like this. That looks good. Let's align it. All right. And so let's name this bulb. Just put it there for some reason. Our bulb is green today. And let's duplicate this shape and move this underneath. And we're going to rename this rays, light rays. And we are going to add to this effect. Let me add fractal noise. Fractal noise is something that a lot of people use to do a lot of different things inside of After Effects. And in fact, I added that to the wrong one. I want to hide this layer and I want to add it to my light rays layer. So add that fractal noise in there. And I'm going to bump up the contrast of this. I want to do this separately so you guys can see what it looks like. So I'm going to probably put this at 200. And then I want to go to under transform and I want to unfurl that little thing. And I'm going to decrease the scale down here so that it gets much smaller. Notice how like all of a sudden it looks like TV noise, right? And if I play it, nothing happens. But if you change the evolution of it, it can look kind of like a weird TV noise. And so I'm going to probably put it at like 15. Let's try it there. And let's go ahead and we're going to eventually animate that evolution. So I'm going to leave that unfurled. And let's add to this a tint so that we can get this fractal noise color to be closer to what our background or your color of choice is going to be, right? And so I'm going to hold a physics frame until you trigger them. Yeah, I can show that to you after this. I'm going to click there and I drop tool and click here. And then I'm going to turn this obviously much lighter. This one I'm going to do bright, bright, bright. Probably did there. And this one I'm going to just do a little bit brighter to there. And then we want to add, I think it's light, it's CC light. Is it light? It's not light ray, it's CC light something 2.5, light burst. This one. Under generate, CC light burst 2.5. And I'm just going to grab that and drop that on here too. And now all of a sudden it looks like crazy, like you're going to go into warp speed, super space, and I'm just going to increase that intensity, or not the intensity, the ray length to 150. I think that should be good. Let's do 200. And so now all of a sudden we have this like super bright looking center kind of thing happening here. I think there's something else I want to do. Let me see. Let me check my comp and see what else I did with it. That is not right. Not that one. This one. No, intensity is the same. Tint doesn't matter. Did I do something else here? No, I did not. It just looks extra bright on this screen versus my PC one before. And then, or my laptop. And then I'm just going to add that in there. You can obviously drop the intensity down. That's what I would do. Probably drop this down. Or maybe not 0, but like 50. I think looks good. And then when I play that, it is going to change. But I can also animate the evolution of this, right? Like I want it here, and then I want here to be crazier. And so when I play that, it's going to animate the changing of the light rays, essentially. And then what you can do for the light bulb flicker is we can take this object and under the opacity, which is perfect, this is what we need. We're not going to add any keyframes. Instead, we're going to do Alt and click on here, and we're going to add an expression. And this expression is called a wiggle expression. Now, the wiggle expression can be added to a lot of different things. In fact, I'm showing you guys the power of wiggle like in After Effects in general today. But I should just call this class a wiggle. There's going to be you're going to have two different values in your parentheses. The first value, and they have to be values inside of there or else this won't work. The first value has to be over time. Over how long, like over 1 second, how many times is it going to do this? This time in a second. So I want this to wiggle maybe like 30 times. I want it to flash maybe not 30, but maybe like 15 times in a second, right? And then out of how many, right? Our value, our opacity only goes from 0 to 100%. So let's say I only wanted it to drop down to 50%, like only change that much. And so when I do that and I hit play, it's automatically going to be flickering on and off there, right? And so you can see like the bulb would be essentially flashing. You could also add it to this one too. So I could copy, we'll see if it works. Copy expression, hit the opacity, and paste that there. And let's see if it, yeah, it flickers the entire thing. So it looks like a flickering light bulb. So that is how to do that. I literally worked in there instead of finishing it out here. So I don't know why I did that. Just close this out then. It's obsolete. Okay, so Eric asked if I could show him how to hold the physics until I trigger them. So let's say, let's get out of here, get into object mode. And let's say I wanted to blow this crown to pieces. I would add a fractal noise. Let me see, which is under the cloner or Voronoi fracture. I'm sorry, I said fractal noise because my brain stopped working. But it's Voronoi fracture, and then I'm going to drop this into there, and then obviously that's going to break apart. And when I hit play, nothing happens, right? Because we need a rigid body tag. So I'm going to right click, go under bullet tags, and hit that. And then now when I play it, it should drop to nothing. And so I am going to add a plane here. Let's go ahead and add this plane down here. This is what I want it to hit. And when it hits this, it is going to break into pieces. Let's make this bigger. Okay. So right now it's going to go through the floor. Boom. Okay. Because we have to add a collision tag to the floor. And so I'm going to just drop that below, right click, go to bullet tags, and add a collider body. And so now when I play it, it breaks up. It falls, it hits, it breaks apart. Cool. Well, let's say that that's not what I wanted. And, oh, let's add the, no. I can't. What did I do? How do I keep, redo is Control Y. Shift Z is to undo action. Shift Z. Shift Z. Shift Z. Okay. Before I was using different. Shift Z. Okay, wait. Oh, now I'm just going too far. Either way, let's just say that this was sitting here and I wanted like a ball to roll into it and break it apart. So let's move this here. Let's take the crown and drop it down to the floor here. And we're going to add a collision, just not a collision tag, but maybe leave it there for a second. And let's add a sphere. And the sphere is going to start here. And it's going to move. Oh, not like that. I'm going to move forward. This is where I wanted to hit the crown. Boom, it's going to go through the crown. And there. Obviously the crown. Oop. Okay, hold on. 36, we'll move it, and then I forgot to keyframe it. Move it off screen, record. Okay, now we have this here. I'm going to select the Voronoi fracture tag. First of all, let's add a collider body bullet tag to the ball. And then under the Voronoi fracture tag, under collision, dynamic off, and so that it doesn't fall through the floor. I actually don't even think you need to do that for this. Let me do this. Dynamic tag on, because then it just makes it a collider body. And we need to go into trigger on collision right there. So then when I play this, boom, it breaks apart like that. Can you demonstrate how to hold physics frame until you trigger them? And then you could also do this, Eric. So like if I wanted if I didn't want the ball, if I didn't want something hitting something else, right? I would add a collider body tag to the floor. And I mean, did I show you exactly what you were looking for? Because like, I feel like obviously that's going to happen now. If I just bring this up, it's going to automatically just do that until I hit it. But you can also, like this, okay, we could also do this, that when it goes, let's click on this tag again, and not on collision, but immediately, like let's say it's falling, right? And we want it to fall, but not to break right there. What if we want it to wait to break right there? And so I would keyframe the enable, change that, and then move forward 1 frame, 2 frames, and change it, and then keyframe that again. And so let's say now we come back to the start and we play. It's not enabled until after. So you can change when that drops. You'll just animate the enabled tag then here. And that way there will be a pause there. That way whenever you said you're trying to shoot an object with physics, but it does it immediately. Like, yeah, because if I didn't have this here, it would just immediately drop down when I try to play it. Yeah, not a problem. I'm happy that helped you out. I'm sure it is frustrating. I fully understand it. Oh, I'm so sorry my camera was in the way as well. I forget that when I go to Cinema 4D that all of my settings are down there. But when it comes to like Cinema 4D, there's so many settings. I mean, obviously because there's physics and stuff involved, that it becomes like a bigger issue. This would be the way I would do the as well. I think there was a light bulb shattering. Juliana wanted to do like a light bulb shattering. I would do that this way. Angelina, I think you wanted to create like some kind of cloud option. You could do this, right? You could let me see. You'd have like a cloud here. Let me move this off and zoom out. One shape here. And I would just copy, paste. Oh, not that. Delete that plane. Copy, paste your sphere. Move this one over so that they're close to each other, and then we're going to scale it down, obviously, and then duplicate it again, move it. Come on. You can't just hit Control D. You have to hit Control C, Control V. You have to just keep copying and pasting. Move that one. I think I can just still hit paste. Move this one kind of over here. scale it down some, and then I would just like put a bunch around it, you know, so that it would represent kind of a cloud. And then you could even, this bottom sphere here, the main one, you could hit C and you could, come on, hit C, there we go. And then we could maybe select the bottom loops and flatten them. Let's do this. I would select this, select all of these, and then just kind of move them up to just flatten everything out. You see where I'm getting at. Obviously, I'm not doing it perfectly. I would definitely do this in a different way to get it more. And then you could bevel these edges and stuff to make it kind of look more like a cloud. And then what I would do is I would take all of these, and I think you can Control G, Shift Control G. Nope, that is not it. Select the spheres, Shift, Group Object, Alt G. I don't know why I forgot that too. Today's Dave Forgetful Amanda. Sorry, you guys. And then I could throw on this a subdivision surface to smooth it all out. Drop it in there. And then possibly select this. Let's NA so we can see. I want to smooth these sections out right here. Actually, I would do this. Oh no, see, okay, let's pull this out. Let's delete this subdivision surface, and we're going to do this in a volume mesher so that they merge paths. So we're going to do the volume builder first, and we're going to drop this into the builder, and then we are going to create the mesher. Let me see. And we are going to drop this into here. And there you go. And we can select the I think it's just the builder. Yeah. And hit the smooth here. And obviously crank this down a bit. Or crank it up, depending on what you want. Then you can take these spheres and move them around if you want them a little less stuck together. So you can create kind of like your cloud shape that way. And that's exactly also, Eric, that's how you morph. Right there, you have your objects put together, and you can obviously animate them together, and then you put them in a volume builder, and then you put all of that into a volume mesher, and then you add the smooth here, and then you can increase or decrease that smoothness with the strength. And this is just a simple way to morph things together, right? Like we're not going to morph them into a fully different object. That's just way too complex for at the moment. But then there is, let me just show one more thing. I think there was, someone wanted to do like a sparkle effect or something. We did the light flicker, we did, the liquid fill animation. Super simple, very similar to the pattern thing that we did, right? If we go to here, and I duplicate all of these and move them up and shut these ones off. And let's delete this here, the wiggle paths. I'm going to take a rectangle. Let's say we're filling it with water, you guys. And I'm just going to type in here water. And we're going to add that wave warp again. tempo, the wave warp. Okay, let's say the 10 is fine or whatever. Let's just increase the to this. And we are going to animate the, no, we can leave that there. Perfect. Leave it at the 1. And then we're going to duplicate this. And we're going to change the color to something darker. And we're going to drop it behind. And move it over in P. So position. In fact, I don't even have to move this. Let's not do that. Let's do it with the, maybe the phase. So that it's right there. And let's increase these just a bit so that we get a little bit more. Let's do 20 on each wave so we get a little bit more of a wave happening. And let's just increase this. Yeah, no, I think that looks good. And so then when I play it, these should be moving opposite. So no, that's not it. Don't change the phase of it or the speed. Let's keep the speed the same. I think it is the position then. So either way, let's take this real quick and move them down here and put them both where did it go? Undo that. No map. Where's this polygon mask at? Where's my polygon? Why is this not working? Let's just do something else. Let's just create. Oh, it moved up. I do not know why it did that. But let's just say you have, I don't know, a beaker. Let's just draw one real quick. You have a circle. You're going to want to add a rectangle to the top here. And then you're going to want to add another rectangle here. And let's take these ones. And I think you can just grab them with the mouse and move them like this. And this top one, let's make this rectangle a little bit rounded. Let's color this whole thing. Or let's just change the opacity T so that it's just kind of, and then we'll change this water. Let's delete the second one. Change the water to red, pink. Perfect, that works. And so then you will create glass here. We're gonna track matte that glass. Let me undo that real quick and duplicate it. And then do this. And because it's clear, we can, well, if you want to see the liquid, drop that glass behind the water. And the water, I'm not quite sure why. Oh, you have to bring the opacity of the mask up. That's why. So then the water, you could have like filling up with a P, not with... Oh my gosh. I said filling up with P. I'm over it. You guys, class is almost over, okay? Filling the glass up with the water, you will select your position, right? And we'll start at, we'll just bring this down and keyframe that position and then move this up. to whatever position you need it to be at. And at the same time, like obviously it's going to be moving around. So I think you can, like, I feel like you just have to offset them slightly. Let me duplicate this. Duplicate. Bring this one down below. Change the color to like a darker. Maybe change the, let's change the phase on this one for sure. Yeah. I feel like maybe not this. Just maybe let's just adjust the wave width a little bit so that they're kind of close. And maybe even the speed of it. Let's do 1.2. Not bad. I think that sells it. I think I would just like adjust it a little bit more here. And then to add the water pouring in, you could just do a line going like this, right? That would be the same color as your, and it would be a stroke, which is nice. You don't have to do the fill, but you can do the stroke to be this color. And let's increase the size, and we're going to taper it inside the stroke. Taper. Yeah, we could do it like that. And then let's add like a round cap to it. And so then when this is here, and I'll take the path, and obviously I'm going to drop the path down here. And even do this. Or this. Oh. Perfect. And then I would add a trim path. Add trim path, and I would animate the end. So I would start it off here, animate it forward a bit, all the way to 100. But then I obviously don't want this filling up until that point. And so what I would do here is I would take the water, and I would move these over until right when that trim path would hit, probably right. Obviously I'm going to move that there. You know, you would obviously want to work in the timing more, but that is a way to fill up like a beaker. And one more. Okay, let's do the sparkly star. Okay, so I'm going to draw a star. Beautiful star. Center it in the comp. Let me remove the stroke, just do a fill. Okay, no stroke. A white star, let me go into the polystar settings. The path, I'm going to change the inner radius here. So that's more like that. Okay. And then you can always also, like if I wanted to be, let me see here, 8. And then I can rotate this star a little bit. Let's hit 0 on the rotation. And convert this to a Bezier path. And then I could, with if I select the path here, I could grab this in and just arrow key that out. Grab this end, arrow key this out. Obviously, I would want to be using like my grid, right, so that I could be seeing this. But this looks like kind of like the Star of Bethlehem or whatever. So scale this down a little bit. There. I think I did this one, did I not? No. Oh, the twirl too. The twirl might be a good one. This is what I did with this one. And so I want to change it. I want to animate the scale. So I'm going to do at 8, 50%. Go back to the beginning, 0. Go over here, copy, paste, so that it quickly flashes on, right? And then I'm gonna ease the middle keyframe only because I only want that one, and I want to edit the speed graph. But I only want that one too. I want everything else to kind of move at a linear speed from the beginning and the end. I'm gonna do that. There we go, nice pop. And then I'm going to add a bulge and pucker, a pucker and bloat under my animators. Pucker and bloat right there. And when I do this and I change the amount, right, like if I go over here and I start changing the amount, notice that it starts to like obviously makes this kind of odd shaped. And so what I would do here is I would animate it 10% there. I think then I would, let me see. At the beginning, I want it to be that. And then at the end, when it's going down, let's put it at like -100. And see what that kind of looks like. All right, that's a little, obviously a little too much. So let's do -50 and see. Not bad. What you would have to do at this point, right, because it looks like this, is I would go into the path of my star and adjust, and I know it's not, I would adjust these right here and push them down until they're more flat. And that way, you can kind of get that happening. I'm going to ease these last ones. It looks cooler when I did it on this one here because I just used a 5-sided star. So if I just hit N, then I play this over. And then you can, what you can do, right, is you can just copy and duplicate this over and over and stuff, and you would obviously want just little flashes. The other thing that I did here is I added a glow, let me see, effect. So you just go over here, type in glow, and then it'll just be under stylize. Don't use VR glow or anything weird. And then I would just increase this, the radius here to like 100 is fine. I think or like even a little higher if you want to, but it gives it like a nice twinkle. This is good for a sparkle, twinkle, any kind of stars you want, and like a wish upon a star type of thing. And finally, the last one, let me do one more because I want to get this for Lee. And this is going to be like a twirl. The twirl is difficult, okay? Or the spiral. What I would do first is I would select the pen tool and I would turn on your action title safe. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click. I'm actually going to zoom in here and turn on my grid. And I want this to snap right into the center there. So I'm going to go to window and make sure my under view, sorry, snap to grid is on. And the center of my composition is right here. So I'm going to click that there, zoom out, and I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to click over to here. Now the one thing that you want to know is that when you do this, you're going to want to take this end and drag it out, holding down shift quite a ways so that you'll be able to, like when the twirl happens, it's not getting cut off. And it might still do that, but we'll see. I'm going to shut that grid off. I'm going to turn off the fill here and turn on the stroke. That is going to be kind of thick. Let's just do it to 40. And we're going to go under here. We're going to add a repeater. And under that repeater, we are going to go into the transform options. And we're going to hit 0. We do not want it transforming everything there. I think that this should be working. Why is it not? Let's drop it outside of the shape. It says 0 because, or you don't see it because I put it to 0. But then I'm going to increase the, like as soon as I start changing the position, you'll see now it's like, looks like it's extending the line because we have more. Actually, let's do this. Let's change the anchor point to the center of the composition. All right, so right about here, because that's where we'll want it to rotate from. And I've got my copies at 68. Probably don't need that. Probably 20 is fine. And then I'm going to update the rotation here. And you want it to be even when you're looking at this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and add a twirl effect under the distort to the shape layer here. And then if we just start changing the angle here, we get this twirling happening. And then we just want to increase the radius because the radius is going to be how far, like obviously that's how far that is. Notice that I clearly have to go much further. We can try the grow bounds thing, but I don't know if that will work. Let's try that. Grow bounds. Let's bring that in above this. And let's increase that. And it worked. Nice. It does work. Okay. And so then you can, you don't have to, this obviously makes it more swirly, right? You can taper the stroke towards the bottom, which would make it skinnier in the center, I thought. Maybe not, wrong way. There we go. So you could do that. And then, you know, this could be how much you want it to twirl if you want it to kind of spit out at you like that. I would just increase this. Obviously, this has to be increased. But yeah, just like a quick way to kind of make a twirl shape. And then what you could do here is you could animate, like if you wanted it to fill up the color, right? We could animate the stroke width from 0 to, I don't know, like we'll do 40 because that's what we had it at. And then we'll keep it for 40 for a little while. Copy and paste that. And then we're going to move forward and like super increase it so it fills everything up. And that way your screen is at the color that you want it, right? And then what we can do is we can animate the rotation happening on the entire layer. So move all the way here. And I'm just going to start the rotation before anything happens there. And I'm just going to do like, it's over 2 seconds. Let's do 180 degrees so it doesn't look too crazy. And that way it fills up. Only 5 minutes over. Okay, you guys. If you have any more questions, I really highly suggest asking them to me before everything's due, right? Like, because Sunday night I have plans. I am a human. And I will be, let's save this to, let's actually save this to our thing. But I have stuff going on. So crown, cloud. And so I'll still be working on your stuff, but like if you guys have questions, like don't wait until that day to ask them. Ask me tomorrow. I'll make sure that I'm available for you guys tomorrow via Slack, especially. So if you guys have questions, ask me via Slack, and I'll be able to answer those for you. And then on Saturday, I'll be available throughout the day. I'll be checking things. So if you guys have questions, ask me there. And other than that, I might send a few of you guys some links to certain stuff that I think could be useful for any additional things you might need. I pretty much went over a majority of stuff. I think the only things I didn't touch on were I know Sarah the Frog Jump with you. I'll find something that you could use as a reference, or you can watch past classes or just use your knowledge of how to rig, right? Sprouting to a tree. Brian, I think I'll send you something for that one. And then, because that was Brian's one. The light bulb one we did. The light bulb shatter, Juliana, just do it like we did the crown today, but just use a shape that kind of looks like a light bulb. And then bear, maybe the spiraling an object, right? Maybe a 3D spiral of money or something. We can try and figure that out. I'll send you something about that, okay? I have to make a little video or something, but all right, you guys, I hope you guys have a good night. Don't get too stressed out about this, right? We've been just working. It's the same thing as we've been doing all class, and especially this last semester. It's just one more video, right? So I will talk to you guys on Tuesday. Have a good night.